And welcome everyone to today's incredible live that we have with Joanie and Karen, and we're talking about electrology today. Welcome, ladies. It's so great to see you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And for those of you that don't know who Joanie is, you are in for a treat because Joanie is an internationally renowned trainer that's going to be helping us at the first ever ABIC Electrology Symposium in Australia. Joanie, tell us all about who you are, and actually how you came to be in this field.
Well, it's actually a little bit funny. So I actually did a full episode on a little bit of my background on my podcast. And so if you guys look it up, you can definitely watch a little bit more about it. But I immigrated to the United States. So I wasn't actually born here. And as an immigrant, I couldn't work for a long time. My mom actually was an electrologist and esthetician since she was about 16. And so I grew up in the field. And one of the reasons why we came to the States, to California specifically, was actually to open a distribution or a branch really of Dectro International. So we sold the machines and everything like that. I couldn't work for a long time, but what I could do was go to school. And so when I was about 16, my mom, who was very tired of me just sitting on the couch doing nothing with my summers because I couldn't get a summer job, asked me if I wanted to go to school to learn electrolysis, which is what she did. And so I said yes. And I ended up actually staying with a friend of the family. And through my whole summer, plus most of my senior year of high school, I actually went to school to learn how to do this. So I became licensed as an electrologist when I was 17. So I've been doing this for multiple decades now. But honestly, I went into it and I did work it as a part-time job, and I put myself through college doing it, and I had a degree. I was going to go into medicine, so it's all over the place. But I ended up coming back into electrology and really focusing on growing my businesses, of course, but also growing the field, which is kind of what my focus has been on lately, really, just with all of the opening the Electrology Education Coalition that I co-own with Stefanie Shields up in Washington. And we put together webinars and the research that we're trying to get into. And actually, we're going to be doing some things with US Path pretty soon. And so there's a lot of opportunities, I think, in this field if people really, are passionate about it and know where to look. I think it's great.
No, absolutely. And we're seeing such a resurgence here in Australia of this particular modality and specialty. And Karen is in Australia heading up and is a senior advisor on our newly established electrology committee. Karen, what are you seeing in Australia in terms of the resurgence? Can you tell us why we decided, or why really you decided to head up such an incredible division within ABIC as well?
Yeah, so I started noticing a lot more calls. I was just plodding along, did my electrolysis many, many, many moons ago. And I was just plodding along, offering it as a service in the clinic. And then obviously there's been a surge and more inquiries, and myself getting a little bit older, I thought, I think I want to spoil myself and get myself a really lovely device. I've still got a 2-dial machine, nothing wrong with that, but maybe I'm just going to spoil myself and look into elevating myself a little bit as we do. And when I started looking at what my options were and, trying to get advice, I realized there was really no support, no help, no association, no network. And there were quite a few individuals that were really helpful that I spoke with. Others were just not interested in having any communication with me, and that was fine. But those who were really eager and keen, they really expressed the fact that they wished there was something. And we started thinking about it a little bit more and more. And somebody put me onto Joanie and Stefanie's education platform and their podcast, and I started listening, and oh my God, I just suddenly became this ridiculous electrolysis nerd. I feel like I've suddenly been just sparked again with electrolysis and I've become a little bit obsessed. And then obviously being an ABIC counselor and knowing all the work that we do through ABIC, I just realized, look, the whole framework is already there. And when I called you and mentioned it, it was like it just took place within 5 minutes. It was all set up and done and happening. So it was quite fast. But I have to be honest and say that it was really just listening to Joanie and Steph and listening to their passion and the work they're doing and all of that really made me think we really need that in Australia. And so having you involved is really amazing. Thanks, Joanie.
Oh,
Yeah.
incredible. And what a great story. And, you know, the irony of it is that we want to elevate in Australia, and you're already, Joanie, leading the way in the US and internationally in this field. Are we a little bit behind on the revival of electrology here in Australia? Like, how strong is it in the US and in obviously the rest of the world?
You know, the US is a little funny because, I mean, you have states, we have states also, and every state has its own regulations when it
Right.
comes to what we
Same.
do. And so some states actually have regulations in place
Mm.
and other states have none. So in a way, we're kind of fighting the same battle. It's not that we technically have the framework all figured out. And even with what we do have set up already, I feel like sometimes some states it's insufficient. There's a really low hour requirement. And what, you know, most electrologists that do this know that what we do is actually very difficult. And
Mm.
it's not something that's learned watching a YouTube video or going to a 2-day course, which is sometimes what's offered in the States, and I've seen it internationally. So it's not that you're behind. I think that you're kind of right on point at the beginning of this huge mountain we've got to climb.
It's a huge mountain. Is the interest in the US quite high? Because I mean, it's a very niche
Huge.
industry in Australia. So
Yeah.
it's huge. In Australia, it's a niche industry. We don't have many operators, but we have client demand.
Mhm.
So the client demand, I think, is driving this resurgence. Are you seeing that been a cultural shift or even an internal biological shift for why we are needing electrolysis now? I mean, I've been hearing that, you know, hormonal conditions have popped up and are increasing our hair growth. Whereas, you know, 20 years ago, when we're using electrology, we would do, you know, a few chin hairs on ladies. Now we're doing, you know, we're treating hirsutism, full blown
Yes.
facial
Yes.
hair. What do you think's different and changed?
I definitely think that there might be a change in overall health of people, but maybe it's also awareness and availability. For example, with gender affirming care kind of changing as it has in the States, it's given a lot of individuals the ability to have these treatments covered when it really wasn't something that was covered in the past. And it's not that it wasn't needed or it wasn't there, but it's just something that wasn't wasn't being done. So there's new facets that come into this that kind of allow us to work with, you know, doctors where we didn't really used to do that. We were more seen as beauty clinicians. And I think that it's important to kind of shift the focus of this field a little bit more into like the paramedical because of a lot of the times we're seeing medical cases. I think that the fact that doctors are recognizing electrolysis as important and very much the solution for a lot of issues is works in our favor. And also it means that these people now have a solution, which is great. So maybe we just weren't seeing these cases because it wasn't really talked about much, or maybe there is a change and we're seeing the results of whatever decisions were made 20, 30 years ago in you know, the different parts of the world. Who knows? We'd have to look at the research to know exactly what's going on there.
And may I just add also, so when I qualified, it was just one of the subjects at our college, and we did the International Tedesco diploma, and I did the advanced electrology. So we were all doing electrolysis, bikini hair removal, all of that, but that was before laser and IPL came along. Then laser and IPL came along, and all the RTOs stopped offering electrolysis because they thought that was going to be the solution. And time has obviously now, you know, proven that that is not always the solution, and it's more so just another modality. And I think that's also a big part of the revival now that's we're coming across at the moment. And that's why we have so much demand, because there's also a shortage because we don't have the people being trained in doing electrolysis at the moment. And when I trained at 400 hours, you guys do 600 in your state.
In my state, yeah.
Yeah,
That's in California.
and that's what is required to pick up that kind of skill level. And at the moment, there's, most of the really good electrologists, even in Australia, don't even have any formal qualifications. Doesn't mean they're not good. It just means that some are not going to be of that level of standard. Others would have perfected their skill out of, their own self-discipline. But yeah.
It really is, as Joanie said, it really is a paramedical treatment. You are inserting needles into very precise points in the follicle, and you are trying to avoid structures so as to not cause damage, your ectopili muscle and a whole bunch of other things. People who've been in the game of laser hair removal and, laser and IPL modalities, I have been for the last 25 years, we know lasers and IPLs are good for hair reduction. I mean, they remove some of the hairs permanently, but not all of the hairs, permanently. So, and you're left with these fine sort of depigmented hairs sometimes that are stubborn, and the lasers and IPLs can't get to them. And then I hear that electrology is the only permanent solution. Why is it so permanent?
Because, and this is what I tell my actually prospective clients when they're coming in for consultations, electrolysis is somewhat tedious because it's, hair by hair, but that's what makes the difference. So laser is very dependent on the melanin, right? So the dark color of a hair in order to absorb the light photon and then transfer it as thermal energy and burn the walls of the follicle. If the hair is not dark enough, thick enough, or, any other thing that might go into that, then the laser's not going to work good enough. But we're using, instead of relying on the pigmented hair, we're relying on a probe. And we're manually putting it inside the follicle and then delivering that heat energy where we want it. So we're not dependent then on melanin. If the hair is peach fuzz versus terminal, white, gray, light brown, dark, it doesn't matter because we're not relying on pigmentation. Right. So what makes it tedious, working hair by hair, is actually what makes it work.
And so a lot of practitioners, they offer IPL. What do you think in their business? I mean, and they create businesses around IPL, laser, and things like that. But what do you think is the missed opportunity there if they don't actually think about incorporating that permanent hair solution?
Well, as we talked about, laser only really takes you so far. And so really you're leaving money on the table. Why not offer permanency 100% of the time? There are cases that you should handle with laser first because they're a good candidate and laser works great in those situations. But what about the clients that are coming in with red hair or peach fuzz, or you've done as much as the laser will do and there's no more reduction to be had? So instead of giving that business to someone else, why not train in-house? And you then, have this extra modality that you can offer. And then that way you're a full service shop. No need to give the business to anybody else.
It's a business opportunity. And a lot of people are not realizing that it's a huge business opportunity in Australia, especially because of the demand that's out there. But there's also another element as well. We do what we can for our patients, and most of us do it because we love our patients and we want to help them. And you give them half a solution. And then you think to yourself, now go off and find your own the rest of the way. It's that element of caring, I think, with electrology is it's even above and beyond because you're doing it hair by hair, because you're spending so much time with your clients. There's this element of personalization, get it out there, care, and compassion for the client as well. And I think we get into this industry because we have that inherently. Would you agree?
Yes, I think that you want to help people for sure.
And I do think there's also the opportunity just to do good cross-referral. A lot of electrologists don't have the capacity or the need or the want to have IPL or laser, so they would be more than happy to refer to somebody to do the laser and then for them to mop up what's left over, because it also isn't easy to just do electrolysis once or twice a week. It's a skill you really need to be practicing, like being a nail technician. You really need to be doing that all the time. So I feel even if people are not interested in becoming electrologists, it would be great to have them at least educate themselves on what it's all about and how to to combine the modalities for the best outcome for their patients, just like we would refer to a naturopath if we needed to take care of somebody's internals as part of their skincare program. So referral is equally as important. But if you have a large business and you can afford the capacity to do full-time electrolysis, then that would be, yes, a very big missed opportunity.
Incredible. Okay, so let's go into a little bit of nitty-gritty. There's some myths out there about electrology. Let's do some fun myth busting. Tell us, what are the misconceptions out there that you have heard about electrology?
So the biggest things I hear is that electrolysis is outdated, right? Your grandma's grandma was the one that was getting electrolysis done. I mean, it's been around for 150 years, so I
Oh,
understand
wow.
that it's
I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
insane.
1875 is what we say. So it's been around a long time. So people kind of still think of it as like an old technique. And
Right.
like Karen was talking about how laser came on the market, you know, in the 90s, and it just pushed electrolysis right out of the way. I mean, people will always love a quick fix to anything, right? And so it took some time, but now people kind of see it as like an old method, and they think that it's just unbearably painful, right? It's just torture. And or they think that it's going to end up scarring their face.
Yeah, I've heard.
Sometimes, yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff is, you know, I've read it in journals, medical journals, with, you know, some of how they talk about electrolysis. That was kind of our latest project, and it doesn't look good, unfortunately. But the truth is that when electrolysis is performed by a well-trained professional, and with the technology that's available today, all of these different things just kind of go away. We have machines that are state of the art. And so the sensation of electrolysis is not what it used to be.
Really?
So yes, it's changed a lot. It changes with frequency, it changes with machine, and then obviously precision. So skill of the electrologist is super important. When you do it right, you don't scar people. There's no side effects like this. There's, you know, we talk a lot about treatment endpoints. So you might have redness, a little bit of swelling, but a lot of these things are temporary and just go away on their own. So there's really no side effects like this. I think that it's just horror stories that are passed around online, because just like it with any field, you're going to have the people that just want a shortcut and don't learn properly. And unfortunately, because this is a skill or this is a type of work that causes trauma in the tissues, you can obviously overdo it. You know, it's not like just a bad haircut and then you go home and cry and then your hair grows back. Sometimes there's irreparable damage that could be done. So yeah, it's unfortunate.
You know, I feel like that the adverse event conscious people are also the ones doing lasers and IPLs. And the funny thing there is the incident rate for lasers and IPLs is actually quite higher per percentage wise on a count than reported, you know, scarring from electrolysis. So that's interesting. And I think that's because of, you're right, there are some people that probably learnt online or haven't been qualified, but the ones that we have met through Australia, especially through our committee, are extremely diligent and have studied hours and hours. I mean, you need to be committed to do this. So it's not just an easy modality to quickly implement. Although it is getting easier, because as you said, we have so many updated devices now. I've heard of a multi-needle one as well. I mean, how many needles can you go up to at a time?
So I think that this is actually what is I forget her name. She came to the US. She did a little tour and she showed
Noreen?
her machine. Noreen. Yeah, I was gonna say Doreen, but it's Noreen.
That's
And
yes.
yeah, she can use two of her 16 multi-needle machines at once in some cases. So I think she goes up to 32.
Wow.
Which is, but you know, multi-needle galvanic is just a different type of technique, and so
Okay.
we see some of these, but yeah, 32 at one time was quite a lot.
Incredible. I mean, there's just so much variety and
Hmm.
choice out there as well in this field, and it excites me for the future a little bit. I mean, looking into the
It's nice
future,
to see people invent things when it hasn't
yeah.
happened for many, many, many years.
If you can put your crystal ball on, what do you expect happening over the next 5 to 10 years in electrology, and what do you want to see happen?
So I would like to see us take back our space when it comes to legitimacy. So I feel like there was a lull where we even fell off the FDA website, and it took everything for us to find the bulletin that was actually put out where the FDA stated that one quote where it says we're FDA approved permanent hair removal. Well, the fact that we were just recently doing some research and I was trying to quote this in a journal article, I couldn't even find that source. It was completely vanished. And so we spent a lot of time trying to find that original bulletin. We managed, by the way, thanks to Eileen, actually, who was part of our research committee, and she has some connections at the FDA and managed to dig it up from whatever archive it was hiding under. But that was just one of those moments where we realized just kind of how obscure we're becoming, and I don't like that. So, there's things like that. I also know through that there's going to be some new machines that probably include a lot of like modern technologies. So we kind of know what's been going on with computers lately. So imagine what that could mean for our electrolysis machines, right? And so I know that there's people working on some new stuff, which I think we're going to see.
Wow, using AI, you think?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, very interesting, Joanie. We'll keep that under your hat a little bit. We are obviously having an education event, the symposium, which we talked about earlier. And let's get some details out there. Karen, tell us about when is it happening? How's it happening? What's going to be in there?
Okay, so it's going to be on the 11th and 12th of January. I know it's an odd time of the year, but I put our little wish list into the universe internet and stated that we would love to one day be able to have a symposium in Australia, just like they have overseas. And it would be my wish to perhaps have Joanie and Stefanie speak at our event. The next thing, I got a little message back from Joanie saying, I'm actually coming to Australia to visit a friend, and we started talking and we locked it in. So that was how that happened. So it's going to be on this date, but we do also have some interest to have a live stream or a recording. So based on numbers, I might be able to afford for us to do that. So we'll explore that going forward. But it's going to be a 2-day workshop, and Joannie's obviously going to be doing quite a lot of education. I might let her cover the topics in a minute, but we'll also want to have some live demonstrations. And my wish is just to have everybody in one space, all the different modalities, all the different distributors standing together, united, being respectful about what they do. And one of the things that I love about Joanie and why I'm so grateful that she's involved is she's always respectful about all the different modalities. And there's so many ways to get results. It's obviously the hands of the practitioner that makes the difference. So therefore, education also being so important. So we'll cover all of that, wrap it up in the same thing. And also a big part of that is networking, because some clinics have got wait lists and some clinics have got clients that relocate and want to find another electrologist interstate. So we need that network for us to confidently be able to refer to other practitioners, or once again work together with laser practitioners, or when somebody specializes in gender affirming care, etc. So the networking is going to be a very big part of that as well.
And this is our first one. So Joanie, you've done these before. You're an expert. You're world renowned. Tell us, what can we expect at the event, seeing as though you're such a big part of this symposium?
I think that I like putting these together for the hands-on opportunities. I think that that's something that people don't get out of watching webinars. The education is good and people can get that online. I love that accessibility is just, so easy nowadays with the internet and all of the stuff that we do online, but you don't have the workshops when you're doing that. And it's nice to watch a video of me doing an insertion, but you get so much more by seeing it in person and being able to ask your questions and being able to meet other electrologists and share. And then that way you can just kind of obviously network, but also grow as a professional, which is huge. So that's always a good time.
So we'll
have an hour and a half. Sorry, Steph. We'll have an hour and a half break within this each day. So that'll be for 2 days, where people will have the opportunity to jump on hands-on and play with different devices and watch some demonstrations. So that's going to be really lovely. Yeah.
That's huge. That's going to be great. And also a great time to connect as well, in that kind of in-between space with various different suppliers that will be there and other professionals as well. Joanie, like without giving too much away, what's something that's unique that they can expect, like a special technique, or is there something that you want to teach us on the day that's going to be a little bit of a special takeaway?
I think that we had talked about, since I've been working in gender affirming care here in the States for a while, I feel like that's probably something that was of interest to a lot of Australian electrologists. That might be, something that's a little bit different. And so um, that might be one of the things. Other than that, I feel like I hear myself talk all the time. So I don't even know people get out of me saying stuff anymore. But hopefully, I share my experiences. I'm pretty honest about the mistakes that I've made in my career because I think that you learn from those mistakes. And so if I talk about something with tissue damage or tissue injury, I'll share stories as we're discussing the topic. So it's more than just getting lectured at, but it ends up being, you know, seeing case studies and what's going on out there. And I think that people tend to grab more from than just having definitions and images.
I think that's going to be so beneficial. Having those case studies and those experiences and those conversations, I think that happen spontaneously and genuinely when you're in the midst of teaching, educating, sharing knowledge. I think they can be really special moments as well. And they can also be transformative. And you have light bulb moments when you go to conferences and symposiums together. There's this energy, a collective energy where for some reason our synapses fire a different way and we come out energized. So it's not just about the learning experience, that we come away from these events thinking, gosh, I'm inspired, right? I feel like I can do this and I want to do better. And I think implementation is the key as well. When we look at training online, sometimes we struggle from the learning to the implementation. I think if you're not there hands-on and hearing from people that have gone from I don't know how to do this to I can integrate it into my business and I can do it well. Are we going to have those types of business chats as well? Is it how to bring this in and make it work?
I definitely think that's a huge part of the networking. It's nice to hear from me, but I think that it's even better sometimes for the attendees to talk to each other, especially since you're from the same country and you understand your clientele. And so that's something that you get from going to these live events that you just don't get from being one of the many squares on a Zoom call, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. And then finally, Karen, tell us if you want to be an attendee, like a guest, or you want to be a sponsor. How do we get involved in this?
Okay, so we do have our electrolysis division page on Facebook, and everything is on there. So we've got a link with the sponsorship packages. We've got a link there to book your tickets. The tickets for the event are $2.99 for ABIC members and $3.99 for non-ABIC members. We haven't actually said this officially anywhere, but I'm going to say it, and that's that. So, but if you do the $3.99, we're actually going to gift you a ABIC membership.
Oh,
so that's the difference in price. It saves you from hopping on and getting an ABIC membership, a single membership, of course, and then still having to go and get that membership. And then obviously we have had some requests to do the live or recorded, so we'll look at that as well. But if somebody is interested and they don't want to go through that avenue, they're more than welcome to reach out to myself personally or go just contact info@ABIC and just speak with Danielle. We're all there to support you together. And just to say also with Joanie, so the thing that I find with Joanie is when I've had obstacles, when I've had decisions to make, there's so many different topics and things that she speaks about. Even when I've decided I needed to, upgrade my optics, all the little things and the tips and the tricks, or when I don't get a good release in her hair, I troubleshoot all the things that, her and Stefanie have been speaking about. It's just priceless in the way that you can elevate your business. And I am sure Joannie's also going to make up some words on the day that we can add to the electrolysis dictionary. I've noticed from her podcast, she makes up her own vocabulary, so that'll be interesting. Looking out for the words for the day.
That's funny.
Well, and also you'll expect a fun day too, because Karen's a crack up, and from what I can tell, Joanie, so are you. I think we're going to have a fun day as well. Expect a great time, really good connection, and just, feeling that sense of community as well. And don't forget,
I'm
if you
super
want to
excited.
yeah, I'm super excited too. I'm really excited to meet you in person now that I'm speaking to you live. But if you're out there and you're a sponsor as well, if you want to sponsor this event and come on board, just email us at info@theabic.org.au. Get in touch and we'll pass you on to Karen as well, Karen, and we'll get that happening. I'm super excited. Thank you so much, Joanie, for making the time. Because what time is it in California now? You're all the way over there.
It's 6:30 p.m., but today's Wednesday.
So you're probably working late.
So we're a day behind. Well, I think you're what, 16 hours ahead or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing
Of
that
course.
right at the end of your day. We appreciate it.